And now it's time for the top 10 worst factions and stables in WWE history. Number 10, the League of Nations. These guys, they suck. When they come out, you just want to change the channel. Number 9, the New Nexus. This was a group that had some promise at the beginning. Some people thought, the Nexus is so great, why don't we put CM Punk in there and get rid of Wade Barrett? It'll freshen him up. Didn't work out. They really didn't do anything with them. And you take a look at some of the guys besides CM Punk in this group. You have Mason Ryan, Curtis Axel, who was then known as Michael McGillicuddy, Husky Harris, now known as Bray Wyatt, and David Otunga. It's not a shock this did not last long. Number 8, Social Outcasts. Now this team sucks on purpose. Heath Slater, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Adam Rose. They're terrible on purpose. Can you really bash them that much? Number 7, the Job Squad. Just the name, the Job Squad, is a horrible name for a faction and a stable. And I think the main reason why they were created was just for the t-shirts, the NWO ripoff t-shirts. Number 6, Los Boricuas, if I'm saying that correctly. This was a terrible, terrible group. I could throw in DOA into this list. They weren't as bad as Los Boricuas, though. They were, complete jobbers. Number 5, Spirit Squad. This one could be seen as a controversial pick. I don't care. I never liked the Spirit Squad. I hated them. I thought they were annoying at the time. Look, I was younger. I guess you could say the only good thing that came out of it was Dolph Ziggler. Number 4, 3MB. They were terrible, and they were supposed to be terrible, but they lasted so long. They lasted like 2 years. They sucked, and WWE knew that they were jobbers, and they used them as that. Number 3, the Oddities. Just the name, the Oddities. Just the name in itself. A terrible name for a group. Number 2, the Core. I could spend hours talking about the Core, about why this was a failure, but I'll just keep it simple. You had Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Ezekiel Jackson. They were created out of the ashes of the original Nexus. They were on SmackDown only, and they dropped the ball very quickly. At the beginning, they were pushed very hard as a very serious group, but after a couple of weeks, they were a vehicle to push Ezekiel Jackson. Yes, that was the whole purpose of the Core. By the end of it, it was a vehicle to push Ezekiel Jackson, and that is one of the main reasons why it sucked. And now, the number 1 worst faction/stable in WWE history, the Alliance. If you remember back in 2001, the WCW ECW Alliance was created to take on the evil WWF. This was horrible. It sucked. It was mismanaged. It was a complete disaster. It could have been so great. They could have had these big stars like Goldberg and Sting and Scott Steiner and all these guys, but they didn't. They got DDP and Booker T and Buff Bagwell for 5 minutes. I mean, it was horrible. They were all jobbers. And you had ECW thrown in there. That helped a little bit. Having them beat together with WCW, it should have been ECW versus WCW versus WWF. It shouldn't have been this ECW-WCW alliance. It just didn't make any sense. And you had Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon and Paul Heyman as the leaders of the group. And you had Steve Austin as a heel. And he wasn't, people hated him being a heel. The whole thing was a disaster. It was one of the biggest failures, black eyes on wrestling of all time. So you can't not put it as number 1. It has to be.